Okay, our next speaker is Dr. Yasco Aracava with the talk, Trials, a Test of Patience, Resignation, and Faith. Dr. Aracava is a biomedical researcher in the field of neuropharmacology at University of Maryland School of Medicine in Baltimore. She is a member of the Spiritist Society of Baltimore, where she has been involved in several activities, such as children and youth activities, outreach programs, study groups, and giving lectures at hers and other Spiritist centers in Maryland. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Aracava.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much to be here in this wonderful gathering, Maryland's Spirit Center all together. Mm-hmm. So I was asked to speak. First of all, I was asked to be behind the podium, which is very difficult for me because I like to walk. So now, forgive me if I get out a little bit from the microphone. So the topic that they asked is trials, a test of patience, resignation, and faith. How can we go, when we go to a test, we want to pass the test. So how are we going to pass the test of patience, resignation, and faith? This is a very tough proposal, right? What is that down here? Is here? Okay. I've been hearing this first statement, life is suffering, because I was raised Buddhist. And that time, when I was a children, of course, my grandparents could not explain why, but he said, if you came back and born again, it's because you didn't pass in the last life. Something was left to be done. So don't complain. That was the only thing he would say if we would complain. Why we poor, why we this, why we that. Then the second statement, nothing is permanent. Everything is subject to change. Being is always become. So these things of impermanence, I start to listen more when way later, when Dalai Lama came, and more recently, of course, with the book of Joana de Angelis and Divaldo Franco. She talks a lot about Buddhism and about impermanence as a source of suffering. Because the material world, even the love, the youth are impermanent. So if you put all your coins on this, you bet you're going to lose your youth, you're going to lose your fortune, you're going to lose your body. So you're going to be unhappy. So don't attach to that. So the third is the root of suffering is attachment. So attachment to these things that are impermanent. And we hear a lot in the Spiritism, a lot about do not get attached to material things that will go away. Youth, all the beauty, go away. Don't attach to that. So then I start, of course, to study Christianity, which was foreign to me. And I see that even in the Old Testament, in the book of Ecclesiastes, wow, they said, because up to that I thought only Buddhism and the Eastern religion would tell those things of suffering. But no, the Old Testament in Israel and many Greek philosophers talk about happiness because they were all searching for the cause of to be happy or not to be unhappy, not to be unhappy. They're all searching for that. Okay, so in the Gospel according to Spiritism, of course, Francois Nicolas Madeleine, the Cardinal says, refers to this statement. Happiness is not of this world. Indeed, not riches, power, or even the blossom of youth are essential conditions for happiness. Even have all this together, you won't be happy because you will be sometime losing something. And you say, well, it's something else that I'm looking for, I'm sensing. Then came Jesus. What message Jesus came to give to us is a little bit more consoling than before. Just say, suffer, that's it. No. He comes, in John, he says more or less the same. In the world, you will have trouble. Wow. So we will have trouble? But he consoles us. He says, but take courage. I have conquered the world. I came before you guys. I lived this millions of years ago. And I passed through, and I conquer. So follow me. So the Spiritists very clearly say, Jesus is our guide and model. Follow Jesus. And he says also, I am the pathway for life, the truth, and the life. Follow me. And like Marcos put it, this, I think we thought the same thing. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, who are suffering. I will give you rest. Can you believe how consoling is this when you're suffering? Come to me. And he says in John 14, is so good. He says, is more consoling, okay? Promising later, almost 2,000 years later, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. And I will ask my Father. Imagine, he will ask our Father. He came to teach us about God as our Father. He will give you another consoler to be with you forever, forever. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. But you know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. So those that believe in his words 2,000 years ago will understand when the Consoler came, 1800s later. We will understand because you stay with me. So isn't this consoling? Okay. So then came the Spiritism. Well, the Spiritism is a consoler promised by Jesus. But now came in a time what we call positivism, where the science was growing, the idea of blind faith was no longer acceptable, and the philosophy came back from the time of Socrates in a new frame, with the science one side, using the reasoning, using the logics, and the religion had to come together now in a rational base, in a logical base, with the foundation of science and philosophy. So we don't fall any longer how we fell 2,000 years ago in many religions, Catholicism, especially Roman Catholicism. So he said, and I saw passing all the fundamentals of the Spiritism, but I'm going to repeat, because this is important for us if we truly, truly believe in the foundations of the Spiritism, in order to see in an easier way to go through the trials and expiation. Because now we will understand We will base our experience in this planet through the logics, to the understanding of why I'm passing through. So the Spirit is consoler because it's giving this logical foundation. Think about, see if it makes sense. That's how Kardec said. All the questioning in the Spirit's book was all him asking sometimes 3, 4 times the same thing in order to be sure that the spirits will answer the same way. And the spirit sometimes say, I already told you, So let's, even though Marco said, and you guys said that, I'm going to repeat this, okay? Spiritism, it says, there is an existence of God, the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. Supreme intelligence means there is no other above intelligence. No matter who comes, say, well, I'm equal to God. Oh, no. So we have to redefine in your point of view who is God, because it's supreme, has to be above. There is nothing above God's intelligence. So because it's the first cause of all things, God has this perfect and immutable laws, which we call divine or natural laws, which is applicable to all elements of the universe. From the little atom, from the little subparticles in the atom to the galaxy, to the big universe, planets, galaxies. It's the same law. It has to be the same. It cannot, in this Saturn is one set of law, but in the planet Earth is another law. No. It's the same. Has to be the same. And the law that is very important for us to go through, the trials, to understand and not to suffer, is the law of cause and effect. This is very important to understand. For every effect that we are sensing now, there was a cause. We can pinpoint a cause 1 month ago, 3 years ago. Some no. Some is way behind in other incarnation. So there is another law that is the law of incarnation. Is imposed by God for the humans to what? To go through evolution. It's an imposition, the incarnation. Although the reincarnation, we may say something. Well, not now, perhaps later, something like that. And the other thing that is important as a fundamentals is the evolution of the spirits to perfection. So we are perfectible beings. We will go towards perfect. Not absolute, because absolute is God, but very, very close. So there is a asymptotic curve to infinite. The evolution of the spirits to perfection through reincarnation, many reincarnation in worlds in different stages of evolution. In ours here is what we call the world of trials and expiation. As Marcus said, is still very low. Most of the people are 50% in the bad side. So we're not good as a planet, as a humanity here. So let's put very clearly before we go to these trials. Spiritism so is based on rationalized faith, because Kardec put everything with reasoning, asking questions. This makes sense or doesn't make sense? Is logical or is not logical? Even faith. Are you, your faith, you trusting just blindly or what? You thought about if it makes sense. So it's rationalized faith. Once you have that, everything falls okay, including patience, resignation, resilience, gratitude, everything falls once you have this rationalized faith. The vicissitudes, which are the struggles of life, derive from cause originated in this or in previous lives, and by virtue of the axiom, according to which every effect has a cause. These miseries that we some go through are effects which have to have a cause. And usually we create the cause, right? And if we admit God is just, remember, we start with God as a supreme intelligence. A supreme intelligence cannot have some defect in terms of justice, making justice, giving advice. No, it's perfect. So if God is just, so then that cause must also be just. To fall into this law, natural and divine law. It has to be just, otherwise it escapes. It doesn't fit to mathematical logics. Okay, so now we enter in my talk, actually. The earthly tribulations, we say trial or expiation. I think it's important because expiation is a term very much used in other religion. It's a religion aspect, but means atonement. You pay some wrong thing that you have done. You're trying to fix to zero in. So it's atonement. I put expiation because in Portuguese we use a lot expiation, but means that trials is something, is a test. Doesn't mean that I have really done something bad in the past, but I'm a little impatient when it comes, I have to make a big effort. How about if I go to a course in the spiritual world and now, please, mentors, put me in a situation where I can test if now I can do better or easier with my impatience. Something like that. So it's in order to move forward. If I pass, I move forward. I move forward. So it's looking to the future in the evolutionary path. But expiation, no. Pure expiation is kind of I don't want to use it, punishment, because this is not, God doesn't punish, but God wants us to zero in. Look, you made a mistake. You have to somehow see how much this was painful to the others. You have to learn this. So you have to pass through some tough struggles, limitations, difficult circumstances, corporeal limitation, motor limitation, or some disease or some limitation of the mind, the brain, so I cannot perform well, something like that. So trials is just passed or failed. It passed, I move forward. And expiation, that's pay off debt. If I have a debt, I have to pay. I may voluntarily decide, because I understand I contract a debt, I will pay. I want to pay. I don't need a court order to start to pay. So it's a volunteer expiation. So how this is a test of patience, resignation, and faith. Of course, the Spiritism is the best because it gives the reasoning for me to have not a blind faith imposed without me even allowed to think about why, but rationalize based on reason. Well, why should I trust that this airplane will fly and put me safely back? I have this faith that everything is put in order. If everything is put in order, I will be back safely. So I have this faith. I don't wonder. I believe the pilot is in a good situation, perhaps the co-pilot. No, we go. because you have previous knowledge that that engineered airplane is safe, is working. So we have already experienced in the previous life a lot of situation that build up my faith in God, in that things will pass, like you said, will pass. It's not permanent, will pass. So Kardec said, and this phrase is very important, unshakable faith is that which can stand face to face by reason, with reason in all epochs of humanity. If somebody comes with some scientific data or some reason, some philosopher comes and that doesn't fit, forget it. It's not anymore valid. So, how many I have? 50 minutes, okay. So patience, I thought this quotation from nature and the analogy was important for us to understand patience. In nature, we cannot rush things. If that plant needs that time to grow, if that nut needs that time to open up, don't try to eat that thing before the time. You're going to be hurt, right? You cannot. It's also the eggs. If you try to accelerate the birds or even the butterfly to get out, the casulo, how you say casulo? Cocoon, you jeopardize the life of that creature. You cannot rush or erase some steps. You have to go. So the saying says, a garden is a grand teacher. It teaches patience and careful watchfulness. It's not just to have patience. Let me put. No. You have to watch carefully, step by step, to see if that patience of mine is resulting in something useful, productive. Right? No, not just like that. It teaches industry and thrift. Above all, it teaches entire trust, faith. You see that thing will grow. That thing will give orange, not lemon. In, 10 years, I may be gone, but that will give that fruit, and teach resilience. I think for the trials to pass through without suffering, more resilient we are, better we go. Better we go without suffering. And of course, if you have patient resilience, gratitude always. Always gratitude. For being patient, for being resilient, for have passed the test. Resignation is more difficult, is something more difficult to, because we have already around, the popular, belief. So the dictionary says it is acceptance of something undesirable but even inevitable. So it's inevitable, you have to resign. That's what it said. It's nothing that you can do. It is often, which is the worst part, it is often seen as lack of will and courage. How many times when we say, I'm going to wait. They say, oh, you what? How you say? I don't know in English. But anyway, So it's lack of will or courage. But what the Spiritism say? The resigned is not a coward, giving up on fighting, but one who understands the purpose of earthly existence, i.e., to evolve, to overcome ourselves, and to accumulate virtues. So that's what the Spiritists came clearly to say, based on reason. Understand the cause, the law of cause and effect. Understand why you're suffering, why you have this trial. Then you're going to shorten your suffering. It's all knowledge. So is but one who understands the purpose of earthly existence, the purpose of our reincarnation, many reincarnations. Causes of affliction lie on our own recklessness or imprudence or on some previous action. Yeah, sometimes we have this bad mood, bad impatience, bad something. So we can just grab it. What is my problem? Or how I caused that problem? But sometimes no, it's all previous. We know we have these tendencies, habit that comes from the within, but not so clear. But the law of cause effect says, well, if there is an effect, probably there is a cause in this or the other life. Life is a school in which we move from ignorance and barbarity to angelical level. That's our destiny. There is no way to escape. That's a determinism. We will one day be angelical. Wanting to or not, we're going to. Right? So this is good, isn't it? We may take millenniums. I hope not so many, but anyway. And that's why difficulties present themselves in our path. It's a test, It's to go faster. That's why sometimes people ask for this blockage, for these problems, struggle. Oh, I want to jump. That's how the Olympians, they practice a lot because they want to be tested. Way there, although it's stressing, but they want to jump to the podium. Oh yeah, the other Olympics, I was in the 3rd place, but now in the 5th. Perhaps I will be the 2nd or the 1st, something like that. Adversity is a great school, fertile field for transformation. So without adversity in a comfort zone, forget it. We don't transform. We stay sitting in that chair of, forever. Oh, why? Law of destruction is need to transform. Everything in nature, in us, in animal, there is a destruction and a renewal. Many of these animals with shells, they have to renew this outside, cover, because they grow, they have to make another one. So in meantime, of course, they suffer because they are open to the predators, but they have to go through. We have to go through all the many layers. Law of destruction is to transform. In law of labor to participate in God's creation. So if we think once we get to more pure level, we have nothing to do anymore, forget it. Because we are not only here to evolve, to reach that level. No, we have to participate in the co-creation with God. Well, so that's why Emmanuel says, and Jesus said, my Father works now, the whole time. And he also, all the pure spirits are working. And of course, a good example of resignation, a good active resignation is our dear friend, Raul Teixeira. Beautiful Raul Teixeira. I think he is putting in action everything that he told us in many beautiful talk. He says, to be resigned is not to be paralyzed, stagnant, accommodating, inert. Resigned is to have an understanding of the reason for things, which does not prevent us from suffering or crying, but give us the joy of knowing that we are taking care of our message in the world. So how many times he cried after that incident of the stroke that he had, and he's braving, going through. And he says, being a spiritist is not for those who want, but for those who can stand it. In Portuguese is more like for those that can, how to say, aguenta. Who can stand. It's tough. It's tough because we know now, right? So trials and expiation, of course, we can have success or failure. Of course, we are so still a child in this evolution. So of course we can fail, but never be a regression, even when we fail. There is no regression. It doesn't fit to the mathematics of God. So they say failure is not the opposite or antonym or whatever of success. It is part of the success. How many times Thomas Edison tried that light bulb and failed? But without the trials, he could not succeed after thousands of times. Okay. So I left some question, a statement that I'm going to go very quickly, and you may ask me in the second part of this afternoon. Are the expiation imposed because we did something wrong in the past life, or can be voluntary? Is there a case of attenuation? Can I attenuate my expiation? If I made a terrible crime, can be attenuated? My suffering, my limitation might be lessened? That's the question. Aggravation, get worse. Oh, missionary expiation. So we can go from expiation, it can be better to test and step forward, or be the opposite. A test, a simple test, becomes expiation in one incarnation, and we stop. Trials and expiation can be therapeutic and transformative of lives. It can be, because if we remove the limitation, we go back to the wrong habits. So disease, limitations are good medicine. And blessed are the afflicted. We can discuss also this term, but it's important to feel affliction in order to move, to feel uncomfortable in this situation. So we move. If we are not afflicted, we think everything is correct. So that's the story of Paul of Tarsus is important to remember, to see how affliction is good. And this sentence is very important. Christ the Consoler, that comes after this chapter, long chapter in the Gospel according to Spiritism. Christ the Consoler. He says, the Spirit of Truth says, I have come as I came on another occasion to those misguided sons and daughters of Israel. So he came before to bring the truth and to dissipate the darkness. Listen to me. As my words in the past have done, so must Spiritism remind the incredulous that above them reigns the immutable truth, which is the existence of the good God, the great God, who causes the plants to germinate and the waves to rise up. As a reaper, I have gathered in sheaves the scattered goodness in the breasts of humanity and said, come unto me, all you who suffer. The Spirit of Truth in the Gospel according to Spiritism. So my gratitude to all my experiences and to all of you. Thank you.